In type 1 diabetes, formerly called juvenile onset or insulin dependent diabetes, the body's immune system destroys the cells that release insulin, eventually eliminating insulin production from the body. Without insulin, cells cannot absorb sugar, which they need to produce energy. In type 2 diabetes, formerly called adult onset or non insulin dependent diabetes, it can develop at any age. In type 2 diabetes, the body isn't able to use insulin in the right way. This is called insulin resistance. As type 2 diabetes gets worse, the pancreas may make less and less insulin. This is called insulin deficiency. Insulin is a hormone made by the pancreas that allows your body to use sugar from carbohydrates in the food that you eat for energy or to store glucose for future use. Insulin keeps your blood sugar level from getting too high or too low. The cells in your body need sugar for energy. However, sugar cannot go into most of your cells directly. After you eat food and your blood sugar level rises, cells in your pancreas are signaled to release insulin into your bloodstream. Insulin then attaches to and signals cells to absorb sugar from the bloodstream. The role of insulin is to allow cells of the body to take in glucose and be used as fuel or stored as body fat. It also means that glucose is more likely to build up in the blood, and this can lead to too high blood sugar levels. When the body becomes resistant to insulin, it tries to cope by producing more insulin. People with insulin resistance are often producing too much insulin than healthy people. That doesn't make sense.
The first step to controlling your diabetes is acknowledgement. The next step is to know your numbers. Understand your cholesterol and blood pressure numbers. Then talk with your doctors and discuss a game plan. Make sure to modify your diet and introduce exercise into your daily routine. Also, find someone to talk to that will support you through your journey with diabetes. The next step is glucose testing and tracking. Glucose testing is key to understand how your sugars react to food and drink. Educate yourself on the importance of diabetes and gaining control, and live an optimal life.
Research has indicated a difference in the way men and women regulate their glycemic status. In addition, it is believed that endogenous sex hormones such as testosterone, SHBG, and estradiol play a role in this glycemic modulation. It is also thought that differing levels of sex hormones in men and women prove to lead to a potentially higher risk for diabetes type 2. Studies have indicated that females with type 2 diabetes had a significantly higher level of circulating testosterone, as to where men with type 2 diabetes had significantly lower levels of testosterone. Further studies have indicated that men who had an above average level of circulating testosterone had a 42% lower risk of type 2 diabetes. Women, on the other hand, who had above average levels of circulating testosterone had a threefold higher chance of acquiring type 2 diabetes.
Estradiol is a form of estrogen, a female sex hormone that's produced by the ovaries. In postmenopausal women and preclinical murine models, estrogen administration reduces diabetes risk. However, the relationship of estradiol and estrone to diabetes in men is poorly understood. Circulating levels of estradiol are inversely associated with insulin resistance, but whether these levels can predict the risk of developing type 2 diabetes is uncertain.
Both men and women who suffer from type 2 diabetes showed lower levels of plasma SHBG, women more so than men. Generally, there is not much difference between young men and women, and their likelihood of acquiring type 2 diabetes is related to their plasma SHGB levels. Older women who had higher levels of SHGB showed an 80% lower risk of acquiring type 2 diabetes. There is a 28% lower risk of type 2 diabetes in older women when compared to only a 52% lower risk of type 2 diabetes in older men who showed higher levels of circulating plasma SHBG. There's a very strong inverse correlation of SHBG and type 2 diabetes in women.
PCOS is characterized by hyperandrogenism, excess androgens like sex hormones, and chronic anovulation. PCOS may also be partly responsible for the observed positive testosterone association in women, as there is increasing evidence that insulin resistance with compensatory hyperinsulinemia plays a role in the onset of hyperandrogenism. Works in theory, but studies have shown that estradiol, testosterone, and sex hormone binding globulin do not correlate with the baseline insulin levels, so it is unlikely that PCOS is the cause for type 2 diabetes.
Type 2 diabetes is characterized by the body being insulin resistant and having increased blood sugar levels. It has been found that the risk of type 2 diabetes is different in women and men due to sex hormones. Women with higher levels of testosterone and decreased levels of sex hormone binding globulin are at greater risk of type 2 diabetes. Levels of estradiol were seen to be elevated in women with type 2 diabetes.
Finally, men with type 2 diabetes have a decreased amount of testosterone and SHBG. Therefore, men with normal to high levels of both of these hormones are at a lower risk of developing type 2 diabetes. As seen in women, men with type 2 diabetes also showed elevated levels of estradiol. Testosterone, SHBG, and estradiol are just a few examples of how abnormal levels of hormones can affect various systems in the body in both a positive and negative way.